Welcome to the deep dive. We're going to be taking a closer look at some of the big news this week. A lot of stuff going on with Microsoft, huh?
Yeah, a lot going on.
It's like every day there's something new and exciting, or maybe a little bit unsettling.
A little unsettling.
We've got news about Skype shutting down,
Right.
AI being used in Call of Duty, which is a little bit of a surprise to some people, and even a little bit of piracy happening,
Yeah.
thanks to Microsoft's own AI assistant.
Oh, yeah, I read about that. That was interesting.
Yeah, so we've got some fascinating articles here, one from Windows Central,
Okay.
and then another one from the Microsoft 365 vlog.
Right.
So we're going to be diving deep into those today.
Sounds good.
So first up, let's talk about Skype.
Okay.
Now, Skype, for a long time, was the go-to for video calling.
It was, yeah.
And it's going to be shutting down on May 5th, 2025.
I know. I was kind of surprised to hear that. I mean, it seems like just yesterday we were all figuring out how to use webcams and
Yeah, I know. It really does.
and Skype was the thing.
It was, yeah.
So it's just 2 months away. It's hard to believe.
It is hard to believe. It really is.
Yeah.
Microsoft actually paid $8.5 billion for Skype back in 2011.
Wow.
It was a huge deal at the time.
Yeah,
And, it's kind of a reminder that the tech world moves really, really fast.
it does.
And, things that are popular today might be gone tomorrow.
That's true.
So why is Skype shutting down? I mean, it seems like they put a lot of money into it. They were really pushing it for a while.
I mean, I think it's a few things. Obviously competition,
Right.
Zoom,
Mm-hmm.
even Microsoft's own Teams platform. There was a lot of changes with Skype over the years. I remember they did a big rewrite of the app at some point.
Right.
It wasn't as popular. And I think ultimately
Yeah.
Microsoft has just decided to focus their efforts on Teams.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. So what happens to people who are still using Skype?
Well, Microsoft is encouraging everyone to move over to Teams, which, makes sense. It's got a lot of the same features. Calling, messaging, file sharing, but it also has meeting hosting, calendar integration,
Right.
all kinds of other stuff.
More of a full suite.
Yeah. It's a more complete platform, I guess you could say. And the good news is you can actually log into Teams using your Skype credentials.
Oh, okay.
So it should be a fairly smooth transition. And you can still connect with people who are on Skype, even if you're using Teams.
Oh, okay. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. So nobody's going to be completely cut off.
Right, exactly. At least not right away.
Right. Okay. Now, what about people who, they really like Skype, they don't want to switch to Teams, or they want to move to a different platform altogether?
Yeah. Well, you can export your data, chats, contacts, call history.
Okay.
So you're not going to lose all of that.
Right.
And as far as the paid features, like if you have a subscription to make international calls or whatever, new users can't buy those anymore. But if you have an existing subscription, you can still use it until it's time to renew.
Okay.
And then after May 5th, the only thing that'll still be available is the Skype dial pad.
Oh, really?
And that'll be through the web portal, or you can actually access it within Teams.
Oh, interesting.
So it seems like they are trying to hold on to those paid users,
Yeah.
even if they're phasing out the rest of Skype.
That makes sense. It's a business, right?
It is.
Got to keep the lights on.
Yeah.
All right. So Skype, it's been a good run. It's sad to see it go, but it's time to move on to something a little bit more cutting edge, and that is AI,
Yes.
artificial intelligence. Now, we're not just talking about chatbots or
Right.
virtual assistants here.
Right.
AI is actually starting to show up in video games.
It is. And in some pretty unexpected places, like Call of Duty.
Call of Duty,
Yeah,
Black Ops 6, and Warzone, they're both using AI-generated content,
they are.
which a lot of gamers kind of suspected for a while.
Yeah.
Especially after that whole incident with the six-fingered zombie Santa.
Yeah.
Remember that?
I do. That was pretty weird.
That was pretty strange. Apparently, human designers couldn't handle that level of detail.
Apparently not. No.
So do you think Activision was trying to, hide the fact that they were using AI, or?
It's hard to say for sure, but I mean, Steam recently came out with this new rule
Right.
where game developers have to disclose if they're using AI in their games.
Mm-hmm.
So that may have forced Activision's hand a little bit.
Yeah.
They had to come clean.
Yeah, it's interesting. It really raises questions about transparency in game development, right?
It does.
And how much do we as consumers need to know about how these games are being made?
Yeah, and what role is AI going to play going forward?
Exactly, yeah. And this whole thing with Call of Duty, it's not just some random isolated incident. This is actually part of Microsoft's bigger AI strategy.
Mm-hmm.
They've been putting a lot of money into AI. In fact, they've got this new AI tool called Muse.
Right.
Um, and right now they're using it for game preservation. But the potential for this thing, for game development, it's huge.
It is, yeah. Imagine AI helping to design levels or create characters or even come up with storylines. It could completely change how games are made.
It's kind of exciting,
Yeah.
but also a little bit,
A little scary.
yeah, unsettling. Like, where does the human element fit into all of this?
That's a good question. And I think it's something we need to be thinking about, as AI gets more sophisticated, we need to make sure it's being used responsibly
Right.
and that it's not replacing human creativity altogether.
That's a good point. All right, so from AI and video games, let's move on to AI and maybe something a little bit closer to home for a lot of people, Microsoft Windows.
Okay.
So it turns out that Microsoft's AI assistant, Copilot,
Right.
was actually giving people instructions on how to pirate Windows 11.
Yeah, I read about this. This is pretty funny.
Yeah, it's kind of funny in a oh no kind of way.
Yeah.
Like for a little while there, all you had to do was ask Copilot, hey, how do I activate Windows 11 without a license?
Right.
And it would just tell you.
It would give you step-by-step instructions. It's crazy.
It's wild, right? It's like Microsoft accidentally left the back door open to their own operating system. So what did they do about it?
Well, they fixed it pretty quickly.
Okay, great.
Good, they updated Copilot. So now if you ask that question, it basically tells you, no, 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 that's bad, don't do that.
Okay.
It warns you about the risks of software piracy.
Right, right.
It's like they taught Copilot a lesson.
Yeah, exactly. But, it is a good reminder that even with the best intentions, AI can still go off the rails sometimes.
Yeah, definitely.
It's not perfect. And this whole incident, it kind of shows that Microsoft's willing to experiment, even if it means things go wrong sometimes.
Right.
And speaking of experimentation, let's talk about the last bit of news here.
Okay.
This one's pretty interesting.
Okay.
Microsoft is actually testing a free version of Office.
Wow.
But there's a catch.
There's always a catch.
It's supported by ads.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so you could be working on a Word document, and then suddenly, bam, an ad pops up.
I wonder how intrusive that would be.
I know, right?
That's pretty wild. Free Office, though, that's tempting.
I know. That's what's so fascinating about this.
It is.
It's like, how much are people willing to put up with ads in order to get free software?
Yeah. Good question.
Now, this is just a test right now.
Okay.
So we don't know if it's actually going to become a permanent thing,
Right.
but it really makes you wonder what the future of software is going to look like.
It does, yeah.
I mean, will we start seeing more and more software going this route? Free to use,
Yeah.
but with ads everywhere.
It's possible.
Kind of a wild thought, right?
It is.
But hey, that's the world we live in. Technology's always changing.
Always.
And Microsoft seems to be right at the forefront of all these changes.
They do, yeah. It's interesting to see what they're up to.
They're definitely shaking things up.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what happens next.
I think so too.
Yeah.
All right, so we've talked about Skype.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about AI.
Yes.
We've talked about ads.
And piracy.
And piracy.
Yeah.
All courtesy of
It's
Microsoft.
been a busy week for them.
It has. It really has. So what do you think all this means? Like, what's the bigger picture here?
Well, I think it shows that Microsoft is really trying to adapt to the changing tech landscape. They're not afraid to try new things,
Right.
even if it means taking some risks.
Right.
And I think they're also trying to figure out how to make money in this new world where everything is moving online.
Yeah, that makes sense. So they're trying to stay ahead of the curve.
Yeah, I think so.
That's interesting. It's definitely a lot to think about.
It is.
And I think that's what we're going to be doing for the rest of this deep dive.
Yeah, okay.
We're going to be exploring all of these topics in more detail. So buckle up, folks.
Yeah, this is going to be good.
We're just getting started.
I'm ready.
Me too.
All right. Let's do it. Let's dive in. Yeah, this free Office thing with the ads, it could really shake things up in the software industry.
I think so.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. Microsoft already has the free Office apps online,
Right, right.
but this is different. This is for the desktop app.
A full versions.
Yeah, the full versions, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, the whole shebang.
Wow.
But with ads.
So you're telling me I could be working on like a spreadsheet and all of a sudden, bam, an ad for like, I don't know, toothpaste pops up?
Exactly.
That's kind of distracting, isn't it?
It could be. Yeah, I mean, it all comes down to how intrusive the ads are, but from
Huh.
Microsoft's perspective, it's pretty smart.
How so?
Well, it lets them reach a much wider
People
audience.
who can't afford the full Office subscription.
Exactly. Students, maybe some small businesses, people in developing countries.
Right, right.
And let's be honest, it's a potential goldmine for data.
You mean for targeted advertising
Yeah.
and product development? They can see how people are using the apps, what features are popular, all that stuff.
I see. So it's kind of like those freemium mobile games.
Exactly. You get the basic functionality for free, but you have to deal the ads, or you can pay to get rid of them.
Right, right. Do you know anything about what kind of ads they'll be using?
Not a lot of details yet, but the article suggests they'll be persistent,
Persistent.
meaning they'll always be on the screen.
Ooh, that's a little aggressive, isn't it?
It is, yeah, a big change from how they do ads now.
Right, now it's just in certain areas of the apps.
Yeah, this will be constant,
Yeah.
so we'll see how people react to that,
Yeah, I can see that being a deal breaker for some people.
especially for professionals who need to focus.
Right. Imagine trying to give a presentation and there's a banner ad for like pizza flashing in the corner.
Yeah, not exactly ideal.
Are there any other limitations with this free version?
Well, you can only save files to OneDrive.
Microsoft's cloud storage?
Yep. So no saving directly to your computer. Ah, I see. So they're really trying to tie people into their ecosystem.
Exactly. It's a classic there's no such thing as a free lunch situation.
Right. You get the software for free, but you're paying with your attention
And your data.
and your data.
And a little bit of your freedom in terms of where you can save your stuff.
Right, right. It really makes you wonder, is this the future of software?
It's a possibility. Could we see this ad-supported model spreading to other types of software?
Creative software, educational tools, maybe even operating systems?
It's not out of the question. I mean, companies are always looking for new ways to make money.
True, true. It's a fascinating thought
Yeah.
and maybe a little bit scary.
Yeah, imagine Windows with pop-up ads.
Oh, no.
But for now, it's just an experiment with Office.
Right, right.
We'll have to wait and see if it catches on.
One thing's for sure, though, Microsoft is definitely pushing the boundaries here.
They are. They're not afraid to experiment, even if it means making some people uncomfortable.
That's true. And sometimes those experiments lead to big changes.
Yeah, and it's up to us, the users, to decide what kind of future we want.
Right. Do we want a world where everything is free but full of ads?
Or do we value privacy and a clean user experience enough to pay for it?
Tough questions,
We are.
but important ones.
Definitely.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today. From the end of Skype to the rise of AI and the possibility of ad-supported software.
Microsoft is really giving us a lot to think about.
They are. And we want to hear what you think about all of this.
What are your thoughts on these changes?
Do you see them as positive or negative?
Let us know in the comments below.
We'd love to hear your perspective.
Because ultimately, the future of technology is up to all of us.
So let's keep the conversation going. Wow, it's amazing to think about everything we've talked about today. From Skype shutting down to AI making its way into games, it's been a lot.
It really has. And then you add in this whole free Office thing with the ads. It's a lot to process.
It is, it is. And you know what strikes me is how all of these stories, they seem kind of different on the surface,
Right.
but they're all connected in a way. They're all pointing to this bigger trend of technology kind of converging, you know?
Yeah, I see what you mean. Like communication, entertainment, productivity, it's all blending together.
Exactly. And Microsoft is right there in the middle of it all, kind of orchestrating this whole thing.
Yeah, they're building their own little ecosystem.
Right. And it makes you wonder, what are the implications of all of this?
That's a good question. I mean, on the one hand, it's exciting, right? All this new technology, all these possibilities.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, you have to think about things like data privacy and user control.
Right. If everything is connected, where does our data go?
Exactly. And how much control do we really have over it?
It's a little unsettling.
It is. And it's not just Microsoft either. We're seeing this trend across the entire tech industry.
Yeah, every company wants to build their own walled garden.
It's all about keeping users locked in.
So what does that mean for the future of choice? Will we be able to move freely between different platforms and services?
Or will we be stuck with whatever ecosystem we choose?
It's a big question. And it has implications for innovation and competition, too.
Absolutely. If a handful of companies control everything, what happens to the little guy?
Right. It's something to think about.
It is. It's a lot to unpack. But these are the conversations we need to be having.
We do. Because the future of technology, it's not something that just happens to us.
It's something we create.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we need to be informed, we need to be engaged, and we need to be willing to ask tough questions.
And challenge the status quo.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this deep dive into Microsoft's latest moves, we want to leave you with this thought. The future is not set in stone,
It's a work in progress.
and we all have a role to play in shaping it.
So stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay engaged.
Keep asking questions, keep exploring new ideas, and keep pushing the boundaries.
Don't be afraid to make some noise.
That's right. And on that note, we're going to wrap things up here.
Thanks for joining us.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of The Deep Dive,
If you did, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe.
and we'll see you next time.
Keep diving deep.